All right, today we're diving into a book that's, well, let's just say it's made some waves. It's Eustace Mullins' Secrets of the Federal Reserve. Our plan is to unpack the pretty explosive claims this book makes about how America's central bank really came to be. Now, right off the bat, you should know this book puts forward a very specific conspiracy theory. Our job here today isn't to be the judge and jury on it. Nope. We're just going to lay out the theory for you as clearly and neutrally as we can, exactly as it's written in the book. And here's a little backstory I find fascinating. The author, Eustace Mullins, was apparently encouraged to write this by the famous poet Ezra Pound. And Pound's advice was simple: write it like a detective story. So you know what? That's exactly how we're going to approach it. Let's investigate the so-called secrets and this great betrayal at the center of the whole thing. So where does our story begin? Well, it's not in the grand halls of Washington, D.C., like you might expect. According to the book, the whole plot was hatched on a quiet, private island off the coast of Georgia. I mean, try to picture this. The year is 1910. A handful of the country's most powerful financiers secretly board a train and head to a place called Jekyll Island. According to Mullins, their entire purpose was to draft the plan for a new central bank, one that would be designed to serve their own interests above all else. Now, Mullins argues that these events are not just a series of coincidences. He presents them as a carefully planned sequence. That financial panic of 1907, the book claims it was the perfect excuse, a manufactured crisis used to sell a pre-packaged agenda for banking reform to a public that was, frankly, terrified. Okay, so if we're treating this like a detective story, then every good mystery needs a list of suspects. So who does the book claim are the masterminds behind this plot? Let's take a look at the cast of characters. And these were not small-time players. I mean, we're talking about the absolute pinnacle of political and financial power in America at the time. Mullins portrays them as the secret architects, the very men who were huddled in that room on Jekyll Island, literally drafting the bill that would later become the Federal Reserve Act. But the book's claims go even deeper. It argues that the men on that island were really just agents, representing even more powerful international banking families. The theory is that these dynasties all worked in concert to create a system that would funnel wealth and power right into their pockets. So in our detective story, what's the weapon? It's not a smoking gun. According to Mullins, the weapon is the legislation itself, the Federal Reserve Act. And this is the absolute core of the alleged betrayal. Mullins claims the act illegally gave away Congress's constitutional power to create money and handed it over to a private cartel of bankers. And how did they supposedly pull it off? He claims the bill was sneakily rushed through an almost empty Congress just 2 days before Christmas back in 1913. This right here gets to the heart of the supposed deception. The system was sold to the public as this decentralized network. Don't worry, it's 12 regional banks, it's not one big, powerful central bank. But Mullins claims that was all a sham. He says it was designed from the start so that the New York bankers would have total control, making the other banks basically just for show. But every crime needs a motive, right? Why go through all this trouble? The book argues the end goal was simple: global power and profit. And it claims this was all orchestrated through a network it calls, over and over again, the London Connection. And this is how Mullins lays out that alleged network. His research claims to trace the ownership and influence of these huge American banks directly back to the financial powerhouses in London. And at the very top of the pyramid, according to the book, sat one family, the House of Rothschild. So how did this network supposedly hold on to its power? Well, the book describes a pretty grim playbook. We're talking about things like manipulating markets to create booms and recessions, funding political candidates to get allies in government, buying up news agencies to control the flow of information, and even profiting by financing both sides of wars. So, after we've gone through the crime scene, the suspects, and the motive, what does the author claim is the ultimate legacy of this whole system? Well, the book's final verdict paints a very, very dark picture. So what does the author say are the real-world results of this so-called great betrayal? Yeah, Mullins does not hold back here. He directly blames the Federal Reserve System for engineering the Great Depression for profit, for pushing America into World War I, and for trapping the entire nation in a never-ending cycle of government debt. And the author ends it all by bringing up President Andrew Jackson's famous fight against an earlier central bank. This quote is sort of the final punch, left with the reader to really hammer home the book's core argument that a secret and deeply unjust system was forced upon the American people.